All right, it is 5:30 and we are going to go ahead and get started by calling the meeting to order. Welcome everybody to our regular board meeting of Vancouver Public Schools. I just wanted to share a few thoughts and reminders. This is a business meeting and we expect those in attendance to conduct themselves in a respectful way. Interruptions can make it difficult for us to stay engaged, so we would ask that you not interrupt the meeting, but if there is an immediate need, that you can quietly move to the back and let one of our staff members know. As a reminder, there is also a designated space for any video recording or media. We want our boardroom to be a welcoming, safe space for all and any of our community members and guests. We want anyone who attends our meetings or anyone who addresses the board during the meetings to feel that they can do so no matter who else is in attendance. That is the reason why we have asked in the past for audience to refrain from clapping, cheering, or commenting while others give public comment. We recognize there are diverse beliefs and feelings across the stakeholders in our district, but one thing we do have in common is that we want to work for what is best for our children, and we are here today to work towards their future. With that being said, we will get started with our business meeting and items on our agenda. We will start with a roll call. Director Decker. Here. Director Sproul.
Here.
Director Zavala.
Here.
And Director Smith. Here. We are all in attendance, so we are going to go ahead and get started. The first item on our agenda is the superintendent report, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Snell.
Thank you, Director Barros. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our November board meeting. It's hard to believe that we're into November already, although it felt like that out there today. I have some different items for you today in the superintendent report, and then I wanted to give you an update on some committee work and then an update on strategic planning. Obviously it's election day, so we're hoping that everybody gets an opportunity to get those ballots into the mail today. I know that lots of energy in our communities and just anticipation of the outcomes of those results. And so a big thank you to all the folks that staff the elections and make sure all those things happen. I know that often that we don't really pay attention to all the work behind the scenes, and so we greatly appreciate them. We had an opportunity to have a student advisory today. We are rotating month to month, one in person and one via Zoom, and today was Zoom. And as you know, over the course of the year, hoping that you all get a chance to attend some of those, and Director Zavala Ortega had a chance to attend today. So I didn't know if you wanted to share anything about that experience.
Well, yes, it was great. I enjoyed hearing the students talk. I think it looks like they're not paying attention, but they really are. They have a lot of great things to say. And I think one of my biggest takeaway was a student just shared how validating, so that the data that we're taking from Panorama, that they actually feel like we're actually doing something about it. Like they're not just taking a test and don't know what's happening with the results. And so I thought, to me, just really made me tear up, because it made me feel that what we're actually doing is, and what our intentions are, readable by them.
Thank you. So that was a great experience. Our next meeting is December 1st. It will be at Skyview High School. So we're in person, and last time we ran out of pizza. So this time they made sure that we're going to have enough pizza for everyone. So, but they're just an amazing group of students that are very committed to our district. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the levy resolution, and we'll actually have a special meeting next Tuesday where we'll bring the resolution forward for your consideration. Just wanted to give some context, though. I know we've been talking about this since the summer. You know, at your direction, we've been trying to be more transparent with just opportunities for community to engage. And so our budget landing page is actually up now. And so it's accessible on our district site, and patrons can drill down as deep as they want to go into that, and into our general budget, into our federal budget, into some of those relief funds that people have been interested in. And there's also some really cool tools that allow you to compare Vancouver Public Schools to other districts, which I think is always helpful to just see how other people are organizing the work. So huge credit to Brett and our business department, our communications team, and our technology team to get this up and running. This is a sample of some of the graphs that you would see on there. This is the distribution of funding from the 1920 levy. The reason we're using the 1920 I guess budget year as a baseline is because that was the pre-COVID year. And since that time, we've had an influx of federal funding for these 2 years, which has skewed the budget a bit in terms of the usual ratios that we have. So trying to go back to a baseline so that our patrons can understand where these funds go. Just at a high level, we are so grateful for our community and the support they've given, whether it's through levies or bonds through the years, and the amazing facilities we have in this community. Just as a point of reference for people, sometimes people wonder what the local levy funds. And so these are a snapshot of some things that are typically pretty important to our stakeholders. Our extracurricular activities, 100% of the staffing costs are associated with our local levy. This is something I think is hugely significant. And unfortunately, today we had another school shooting in our state and lost a student. 88% of our safety staff comes from the local levy, and we're very fortunate to have amazing individuals that help to ensure that we're safe every day. 8% of our classroom teachers, that number has actually gone down a little through the years as the state has increased their prototypical staffing allotment. And last year in particular with counselor increases. Almost half of our mental health and nursing support comes from our local levy. And finally, 88% of our family community resource centers. And I would say the other part of what allows our family community resources to function is our foundation. And so basically our local community is making that happen every single day. And so we're extremely grateful for the community, and we want to make sure as people think about the next election in February that they have a place to go for accurate information. Any questions about the resolution coming up or comments? Okay. Just another couple of updates. Committee work. The board has asked us to do some investigation around several topics. The highly capable committee that's primarily focusing on elementary, but probably will go beyond that, is looking to get started on November 30th. So we've been in the process of identifying committee members. Christy Limholm will be running that or facilitating that with some other staff, and we'll give you updates as they go on their recommendations. And then of course we have Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Vita School District, our elementary schools slated to open in the fall of 2023. And we just got the latest bond update from AJ. And at this point, things are trending in a positive direction, and that's all I'll say about that. But I know that you have taken some time to look at programming, and that you've also taken some time to look at long-range forecasting through a demographer report. And so we are getting closer to kind of thinking about what that programming could look like. And so just kind of teeing that up for future board meetings when we'll be talking about that. Strategic planning update. Super excited to kind of just check in with you regularly about this, and you're aware of the timeline. These are slides that you've seen before. I wanted to start, as I update you, give you data points on what the engagement and what the data is looking like in terms of numbers. And so to date, we've done presentations to over 400 people around the strategic plan. And we're also talking about our funding model in those presentations as well. Those have been students, those have been community leaders, our staff advisory, and then we have been going out with the help of our EDs and doing presentations at all the schools as well. So typically our schools have staff meetings on Wednesdays. And so we kind of go out and figure out how we can cover all the schools on those Wednesdays and do the presentations there. So it's been awesome to connect with them and share the information, share the direction that you all are giving and how we engage with people. I've also shared this layers of data slide with you several times, and we've talked about at a high level engaging the broader community with these open-ended type of surveys, and then trying to get more relationship focused and more intentional about asking questions at layer 2, and then doing some analysis with layer 3. And so right now our engagement at the level one big picture, we have about 500 plus people that have weighed into those surveys, and I'll show you where you can access those at the end of my presentation. At layer 2, we are at about 100 plus people that have been engaged or given the survey from this. I took a snapshot of the dashboard that our DART team has constructed, which is pretty phenomenal. So when you're doing this relationship focused survey, there are some questions that ask about your demographics, what school you might have attended, things of that nature. Those are optional, so people can just say, I choose not to answer that, and still give us feedback. But if they do choose to answer it, then we can start looking at where is the data coming from. And so when you look at this image here, you'll see that these are some demographic data up here. And then down here is a map of Vancouver. And this is by zip code. So it shows where the feedback has come in so far. And then over here, you can toggle between the different high-level questions in those surveys. And there's a word cloud that comes out to kind of show the emerging trends in the question. And then down here, you can actually scroll through each individual comment. And so this is on the back end of us as a leadership team, all those advisories processing this data. So instead of it going into a big binder and not necessarily being able to look at it, it's very dynamic, which is a huge credit to the DART team for compiling that. So why do we compile that is for layer 3, because once we've started to really start to get some trends and what we're seeing emerge, then we're going to ask ourselves, or continue to ask ourselves, who are we missing? What do we need to learn more about? And specific things that we're wondering about to ask to different groups of people. This is that same dashboard toggled down to by school. So each of these little dots is a school location, and the bigger the dot gets, the bigger the circle means the more people have offered feedback in that. And so this is relatively new. It's pretty live in terms of it'll update about every 24 hours. And so as more people complete the survey, those will grow. And this was an exit ticket for the student advisory today. So they were invited to take the survey as well. I screenshotted this before that, so it actually might be a little higher. But, and then the biggest group of people that responded to this was our staff advisory. And that's why you're seeing a really good distribution of schools, because we tried to be very intentional with our labor partners about identifying people from all of our schools, different levels, to try to get a good representation of the district. In our last board meeting, there was some confusion about like the strategic plan had already happened, or that people had felt left out in the process. So I did want to just take the time today to actually click and show people where they can go on our website to offer input. And if you just Google Vancouver, you know, our home site will come up, Vancouver School District. Please make sure you're at Vancouver School District USA, because BC one does some strategic planning as well. I've actually looked at it, it's pretty good. But right here is our icon, help us write our story. And when you click on that, you're going to get a lot of opportunities to engage and talk about the timelines and things of that nature. But you can also just click right on one of these questions, and that's that high level survey through Thought Exchange. So not only can you offer your own questions in whatever, or own ideas in whatever language you'd want, but then you can also read other people's ideas and rate those. And so that's what's helping us see what those themes are initially at layer 1. So I'm really excited about the work that we're doing. And when we think about the intentional engagement of over 400, and then we think about this layer 1 detail, and we're about 500. And then we think about the layer 2, more relationship-based input. We're over 1,000 people already, and we're just getting into November, and our window for collecting data is fall and winter. So we're well on our way to getting a lot of input from our community. Not to say that we haven't, and there's lots of people we've missed. Obviously, we're a district of 21,000 students and 3,500 staff and a growing community. So we want to make sure that we continue to be intentional about that. Next week, we'll have a series of listening sessions that are hosted via Zoom through our partners at Point North. So I'll have more information in the coming months about this, probably do either a January or December check-in, just to, depending on how much our data has changed. So I believe, I know it was a little longer tonight, but I had a lot to say. So I will stop with the superintendent's report and see if there are any questions or comments.
Thank you, Dr. Snell. That was great information. Next on our agenda, we have Board of Directors reports, and I believe Director Zavala had some information to share.
Yes, I just wanted to share that I had an opportunity to attend a conference in Walla Walla a couple weeks ago. The conference was called the Washington Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents. The mission of the organization is to empower Latino educators into positions of leadership and mentorships, networking, and professional development. I got to attend with 4 of our other Latino administrators at this conference, which was great to see that. My biggest takeaway from this conference was the superintendent panel, where we had the opportunity to hear from our Latino superintendents around our state. We have about, I believe, 6 Latino superintendents who are male and Latino, and we have 1 Latina superintendent in Shoreline. So I thought, and it was great to hear their stories and how much they have had to overcome to be where they are today. And really, I think the biggest takeaway from the conference was how important it is to encourage our educators to take roles in leadership within our district, but not only Latino educators, but I think all of our educators where we see their skills that they can be in administration. I think the conversation was, it's taking the time to speak to someone and say, hey, have you thought of being an admin? Have you thought of, and sometimes it just takes that moment to say, I see you and I think you would be great. So there's a lot of learning, but I think that to me was my biggest takeaway, and especially for our educators of color, is encouraging them and also finding ways of mentorships. So I look forward to seeing more of our educators participate and more of our students also taking on being educators and administrators. So thank you.
Wonderful. Did anybody else have anything? I wanted to take a moment just to acknowledge that it is National School Psychology Week. So I wanted to give a shout out to our school psychologists in Vancouver for the amazing work that they do. I did also, on a separate item, part of our board leadership, we elect a board chair and vice chair for every calendar year that they start in January. And so in December, we are going to be nominating a new chair and vice chair to represent our board. So part of my duty is to select a nominating committee that will then put forth nominations for our next board leadership. And so I've asked Directors Smith and Director Sproul to sit on that committee. So they have agreed to do that. And so I look forward to hearing from them next month. And that is it, I think, for our Board of Directors report. Next, we are going to move into audience participation. So this is where we have time for public comments. So our public comments is our time in our meeting where the board and staff like to hear comments from the public. If you wish to address the board and did not have an opportunity to sign in at the start of the meeting, please do so now. Because most matters require fact-finding and review, the board is not able to respond to any public comments made at this time. Additionally, the state's Open Public Meetings Act restricts deliberation on topics that have not been placed on the publicly noticed agenda in advance. If follow-up action is necessary, the board will ask the superintendent to work with staff to consider the information and respond accordingly. As a regular business meeting of the board, we expect the audience to conduct themselves professionally and courteously. Additionally, speakers are expected to be respectful. The board asks that personnel complaints be submitted in writing. Disruptive conduct may cause the meeting to be adjourned and all audience members to be removed. We ask that you approach the podium and state your name for the record. Also state your affiliation with the district, and you will have 3 minutes to make your comments. If you hear a chime, please conclude your remarks. If you have materials or additional comments you would like the board to review, please hand them to staff in the back of the boardroom. This information will be provided to the superintendent and board. The board appreciates, listens, and cares about the broad range of perspectives in our community, and we thank you for your comments. We do or we did have someone sign up for Zoom comments. Let me pull that up real quick. I don't know. I don't see the person that signed up on the Zoom. Dusty Sparks. Dusty, if you are under a different name, if you could make sure your name gets changed. Other than that, we will go to in-person comments. Did we have anybody sign up for in-person comments? No? All right. No public comments for tonight. With that, we are going to move into the next item on the agenda, which is approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, we will take a vote. Director Decker,
Approve.
Director Sproul,
Approve.
Director Zavala,
Approve.
and Director Smith. Approve. All right, I also vote to approve. The motion passes. Next, on the agenda, we have our consent agenda. This is a slate of items under instructional and administrative support, as well as fiscal support services. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments? All right, we will move that to a vote. Director Decker,
Approve.
Director Sproul,
Approve.
Director Zavala,
Approve.
and Director Smith.
Approve.
And I also vote to approve, so the motion passes. We now have one item on our regular business item for tonight. I will turn it over to Dr. Snell.
Thank you. I was trying to pull it up on the screen too, so I was multitasking at the
Sorry.
same time you were trying to figure out who I am. So I actually will have Marilee speak to this as the second reading of a policy. I don't think that we received any comments or changes, did we, Marilee? Okay, so this was presented in the October board meeting, and it's fitting that I think it's taking place that is coming before you during School Psychologist Week. And I don't know if you'd like to comment at all, Director Barros, on kind of the intent behind this policy and some of the hopes that the board has for this policy, because it's a new type of policy for us.
Yeah, so this is the policy that I initiated back in the spring. This is something that I obviously am passionate about, and even before 2020, this was something that I felt was important, that we as staff members and as a community really take a trauma-informed lens when we are engaging with our students, with fellow staff members, and really understanding the impact that trauma can have. And then it can look like different things, and we can respond in different ways that can either be a trauma-informed approach or can essentially re-traumatize students. And it was a priority of mine, again, before the pandemic, but I think seeing where we are right now as a community, as a system, it is even more important, just after everything that we've been through, that our students have been through, as a community, the trauma that we have collectively experienced. It's just the lens that we look at things, and having that trauma-informed approach, I think is really important. And so arming our staff members and our educators with support and with information and knowledge, so that they can engage in a trauma-informed way with our students, I feel like is important. And so that is my hope with this policy, is that it really that it's not just something that we do, but it's really a framework and a focus and priority that we have.
And it aligns very well with the equity policy and the work of the Equity Discipline Committee in terms of some of the attributes or the outcomes associated with this policy are reduction in discipline, better support for students with behavior. It has some training requirements that we have, and it has some opportunities to look at data from the participants to better inform what we do the next year. So it's new for us. We appreciate the board bringing it to us. And then if adopted, then we will form the procedures and start to include staff in what that looks like moving forward. So.
Okay. With that, do I have a motion?
I move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further comments or discussion?
Thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you. With that, we will take it to a vote. Director Decker,
Approve.
Director Sproul,
Approve.
Director Zavala,
Approve.
and Director Smith.
Approve.
And I also vote to approve, so the motion passes. With that, that was the only item that we have for regular business. We are now going to recess to an executive session. It is personnel to discuss the performance of a public employee. There will be no action to follow, and I anticipate 30 minutes. So we will return to adjourn the meeting. Again, no action to follow. Thank you, everybody. We are now recessed. All right, welcome back to our board meeting. We are finished with our executive session and it is 6:48 PM and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Quick question.
Oh.